Hello, it's Adrian, or Lee6113, and today is August 1st, 2022, which means it is day one of the RPG a Day event. And the first question is, who would I like to introduce RPGs to? I think probably my answer is going to resemble many parents, but it's going to be my kids. I think if I could introduce my two daughters, Emily and Elizabeth, to RPGs, and I actually kind of have already. They're 5 and 8 right now, but we've played Mecha Hack before, and it was really fun. We've tried to play My Little Pony RPG before. That didn't go that well. That's not really a show that I ever watched, really. And so they were into it for a little bit, and I got the game, and I was like, it's D&D but ponies, and it didn't work out that well. But as they're getting older, I imagine what it'd be like for them to play like a fantasy game, like Dungeons and Dragons, or they enjoyed the Mecha Hack concept a lot. I've had them drawing mechs before, and that was really fun to see them create kind of ideas and just very, very basic games of Mecha Hack we've played before. So that'd be my answer is if I could show some people RPGs, it'd be my kids. So we'll see you tomorrow. Hello, it's Adrian again. Day 2 of RPG a Day 2022. I am driving, so don't mind if I'm not looking at the camera. But what the question is, what is a good introductory RPG? And kind of going off of my answer yesterday, thinking about introducing to younger kids, or just really anybody who's new to RPGs, what I would look for is something that's simple, that doesn't have a whole bunch of complicated game mechanics, something that's kind of easy to pick up, easy to make a character quickly, something that you really don't need to know a lot of background, like history or lore into the world or the setting. And I think I mentioned it yesterday, but I've already played a little bit with my kids the game Mecha Hack, and that's a game inspired by the Black Hack, which is kind of a rules-light D&D variant, except the Mecha Hack is all about piloting mechs. So imagining, if my 8-year-old and like her friends, if I was going to run a game for them or something, it'd be pretty easy to have them sit down at the table and just say, think about making a robot. What would your robot look like? Or if you've seen like the Marvel movies, think of like Iron Man, someone in his suit, someone who's gonna, or if you've seen any animes like Genlock or Kuromakuro or any of the, really popular Gundam shows or anything like that. There's a lot of inspiration that they can just take from pop culture that they probably are already familiar with. Or if you just say build yourself a robot, like a kid will do that very easily. And same for anybody else, a teenager or an adult. If you are brand new to RPGs and all you're told is you get to make yourself a robot, you draw it real quick, or you can just flip through this book. And the Mecha Hack is something like 40 pages. It's very, very easy to pick up and read. The artwork is very, it grabs your attention. It's very black and white and just very inspiring to show the setting. And then when you make characters with Mecha Hack, there's only the first book, which is all you need. There's only 4 types of mechs that you choose. You choose one of 4 pilots and one of 4 mech styles, and then from there you get to customize them a little bit. And if you're brand new to RPGs and you're not thinking of like a character background and kind of getting all into this world building and creating for yourself, you can just roll on these tables. You roll a d20 and that's your background. It's you're an ex-soldier or you're a mechanic or whatever it is. And then there's just a bunch of roll tables, which makes it really easy. And if you don't want to have it randomized, a new player can just read the list and choose one that shouts out to them. And then you get to make your mech cool by choosing a module, and that's about all you need to do for character creation, is just choosing 3 or 4 different things like that. And then for rolling your stats, you can either use a standard array, which means it's just you put 4 numbers into 4 stats, or you can roll for those numbers, and that takes 1 minute to do. And then once you launch into gameplay, the Mecha Hack or the Black Hack, they are player facing, which means the new person gets to do all the dice rolling. And if you're familiar with RPGs, which everybody here should be, rolling dice is fun. So the player gets to roll more, they get to roll for their attacks, they get to roll for their defense, they get to roll for their interpersonal skills, or if they're electronic capabilities. The 4 stats are power, mobility, systems, and presence. And so every time you're trying to attempt something, you're rolling that. And then you get a reactor die as well, so if you're trying to push your mech to do cool things or do the same thing twice, you get to roll your reactor die or the usage die, and that's a really fun mechanic that brings a lot to the game, I think. So intersection. But yeah, I think it's really easy for the kids, so or new persons in general. So my answer, what makes a great introductory RPG, the mecha hack. I thought about saying another RPG, which would be the Ubiquity system, because character creation is very easy to do if you just follow the steps in the book. So if you wanted a different style of game, I definitely recommend Ubiquity over something like Call of Cthulhu. And if you wanted to play like a fantasy game, I know there's a lot of different options out there that are kind of more a little easier to play than just D&D 5th edition. But if you have a good, if you are being the game master, or the person running the game is familiar with 5th edition, I think that can be very easily done with a pre-generated character at a lower level, let's say level 3. But that's not what I would choose to run for a brand new person. If it was going to be like a short game, because attention spans will also play into it. A mecha hack game I can run in 90 minutes, and you get a beginning, middle, and end, and it's kind of like a case closed story, easy to do. Versus a fantasy game, I feel like it's going to really turn into 3 sessions and just be longer. And new players who don't want to commit to something long term, if they're familiar with like a board game concept of family game night or something like that, the mecha hack is just perfect for that. So that's my 2 cents on question number 2. If you haven't checked out the RPG A Day 2022, I encourage you to check it out. Go to their Facebook, watch the videos on YouTube, just search the hashtag RPG A Day 2022, and I'll see you tomorrow. Good morning, August 3rd, 2022, which means it's day 3 of RPG A Day, and the question is, when were you introduced to RPGs? For me, I would have to rewind back to like 1999 or 2000, and I was super into Star Wars. The Phantom Menace had come out, just everything to do with Star Wars was my favorite thing. So my brother and I and all my siblings, we all had like Star Wars figures we would get for Christmas, and my brother and I would always play the Star Wars figures, action figures, and my dad kind of thought, it'd be fun to see if they had a Star Wars version of this old game he played called Dungeons and Dragons, and he didn't think it was a good game for kids, because I don't know if it was influenced by like the Satanic Panic or something like that, but he remembered playing it and it was fun, and they'd draw battle maps and go through dungeon crawls together, and he's like, well, what if there was a Star Wars version? And being an engineer, my dad decided to use Microsoft Excel and list out every single Star Wars race, planet, blaster type, everything that he could think of, and we had like all the Star Wars encyclopedias and stuff, so he would put together this spreadsheet trying to make a Star Wars version by himself of Dungeons and Dragons. And then he found out that Wizards of the Coast had, I think it was Wizards of the Coast at the time, it might have been a different company, I would have to check, but they had the Star Wars D20 D&D version already. So he just closed out that file, just bought the game. We got the starter set for the Invasion of Theed, the Star Wars role-playing game, D20 Invasion of Theed box set, and I was like 9, and my first character was just the pre-generated Jedi, Ron Aikanu, and we were in Theed and on Naboo when the droid invasion occurred in the Phantom Menace, and we played that for a bit, and it was, it was really fun. And some of my younger siblings, younger than 9, did not have the attention span for it, and eventually like that didn't really last very long, but that kind of always was something that I remember loving doing, the idea of role-playing and being a character. And then when I got online onto the internets, I wound up doing a lot of Star Wars forums and got into play-by-post text-based RPGs, just playing characters without any like rules or anything, just making stories and, you know, making friends online. And then I saw Lord of the Rings for the first time, and my interests shifted dramatically from Star Wars to fantasy, and I got into fantasy role-playing online, and then one thing led to another, and by the time I was like 15, I went out and bought the D&D 3.5 basic game set, and that had dungeon tiles, minis, it had, you know, the player's handbook was in there, and it opened up D&D for me. And so I ran for my brothers and sisters off and on throughout my teen years, and that's how I got started with RPGs. So. Good morning, day 4 of the RPG A Day 2022. So the question is, where would I host a first game? And I have a couple answers for this, actually. The most obvious one, in the context of showing like my kids or a family member an RPG, would just be at home, living room, or maybe on the bed or something. But thinking about a couple other options, especially if the context of just somebody new, maybe a friend or someone that I've met. I met a lot of people online through RPG games, and so I've got friends all over the world who play RPGs, and that's obviously location restricted to being online. And I think online is actually a fantastic first place to play. You miss the person-to-person interaction, but of course you can always do video chats to compensate for that. It's not the same, especially when you have like lag, or talking over each other can be more of a problem because it's just not 100% the same. But playing online is a great way for new people to start, because they could be in their pajamas at their home with no pressure of being around other people, especially if they don't use their cameras. That's going to make them feel a lot more comfortable. They can mute whenever they need to, and so online is a great first time for some people. So I definitely think that's a good answer. And then the third option, which I'd like to put out there, is kind of more of my own thinking of something that would be really fun. And this might go back to just being my kids, but I can also see anybody who was down to try it. And this doesn't have to be a first time RPG, but a fun location would be to go like camping, and you go have a campfire, or like you're in a tent and you do a fun one shot out in the wild. That has always sounded really fun to me. So anyways, that's just a couple ideas for a first location for a first time RPG. But yeah, anyways, see you tomorrow. Hello, it's day 5 for the RPG A Day 2022, and the last of the W questions, of who, what, where, when, why. The last question of that kind of section is, why would somebody enjoy the RPG that they first play? I think that's kind of the idea behind the question. Now, in the previous questions, I was saying that who would I like to introduce an RPG to, and what RPG, and I said my children, and the first game that I would probably pick out for them is Mecha Hack. But for this question, why would somebody enjoy their first RPG? I think I'm going to kind of take that more generally, as if I'm playing an RPG with somebody for the first time, and it doesn't necessarily matter who they are, whether it's a friend, a stranger, family, whatever the case is. I think the reason somebody is going to enjoy an RPG for the first time, regardless of what the system is because when you get to play an RPG, it's a brand new form of media, I guess. Not media might not be the right word, but like if you say, let's say you love a movie, like say Star Wars. I loved Star Wars as a kid. As soon as I learned about RPGs, I was able to be in Star Wars, not just watch Star Wars or read Star Wars, or the comics or the books or whatever, and all those other platforms. If you watch a movie, whatever, or a show that you really enjoy, you get to see, the director, producer, the script writers, version of a story unfold on screen, and it's depicted by actors and, you know, CGI and special effects and acting and whatever the case is. And you'll have a great time watching a good movie. But it's different when you are playing an RPG and you get to be the character. You get to be maybe not Luke Skywalker, but you get to maybe be the bounty hunter, or you get to be the Jedi, or whatever the case is. You get to make your own character, and through your decisions, you get to make the story alongside with your other players and your dungeon master or game master, and that is super cool to do. Like when I was a kid, like I said, I watched Lord of the Rings, and I fell in love with fantasy, and that was like I read Dragonlance, and I read all these other fantasy books, and I was just obsessed with swords and sorcery. And then I got D&D, the basic game, and I could make my own stories. I didn't have to be limited to what movies existed. I could write my own stories essentially, but not even that, because like the players that I would run for, they would kind of control the direction of the story, and it's just such a fun thing to be able to not be limited in your storytelling. And so I think when you look at it from like a new player, naturally, if you're going to run a game that someone's going to be interested in, there's so many RPGs out there, whether they want to play a fantasy game and you choose D&D, or whether you as the game master are pitching like whatever system you want to play, like Call of Cthulhu, like Matt said, you put out your elevator pitch, and if that snags them, the new person's going to be interested in your game. And that could be Alien, it could be Mecha Hack, it could be Star Wars, it could be Pathfinder, it could be all these different games that we've had a chance to play and talk about. Whatever the game is, if the person's going to be interested because you're either friends, or the elevator pitch that you put out is interesting to them. But why are they going to have a good time is, I think, when they actually realize that they are able to be the main character, or one of the main characters, and they can do things that will directly affect the story. So I don't know. I don't know if that is a very concise answer, but I think that's one of the many reasons somebody would enjoy their first game. RPGs are awesome, and I will probably never stop playing them.